I'm Phil Knight. I'm chairman of Nike. 2 months ago in Cupertino, California, they held a memorial service for Steve Jobs. Tim Cook was asked to give one of the eulogies, and Tim Cook loved Steve Jobs. The week after the event, I called Tim Cook, and I said, "How in the world did you get through that?" And he said, "It was one of the hardest things I ever had to do, and I have no idea. I'm about to find out." I have worked at Nike and its predecessor company for 48 years. Some might call me a short timer. In those 48 years, I have never had a promotion. But it has had its other benefits. It is how I met Joe Paterno. 33 years ago, we started a college football coaches trip, where coaches and their wives went with company people to a resort for 5 days to get to know each other, to exchange ideas, and maybe just let down a little bit where there was no media and there was no donors. It was there that I met Joe. And a whole lot of Hall of Fame coaches have gone through those trips over those 33 years, including Bill Walsh, Bo Schembechler, Jimmy Johnson, Bobby Bowden, Mac Brown, Urban Meyer, Barry Switzer, Gene Stallings, Pete Carroll, Lavelle Edwards, and hundreds of others. And the one coach they deferred to the most was Joe Paterno. A lot of serious talk goes on there, but in the letdown periods, sometimes it gets a little goofy. One year we had a skit where Nebraska coach Tom Osborne played Nicky Nike, and Joe Paterno was a swaying palm tree. One of the great highlights was 15 years ago when Rick Neuheisel, who was coach at Colorado at the time, Rick played the guitar on Sunday evenings at the lounge at the Holiday Inn in Boulder. So he was skilled, and he got on the stage and was playing his guitar, and he asked Joe to come up and do a duet of Wild Thing. Joe didn't hesitate. He jumped up onto the stage, and while not the most artistic performance ever, it was loud and enthusiastic. At its conclusion, the place exploded into a standing ovation, and it became a tradition for every year. When Rick Neuheisel went to Baltimore, why, Gary Patterson of Texas Christian could also play the guitar. So Wild Thing became a tradition for all 15 of the last 15 years. 21 days from now in Hawaii, there will be an enormous void on talent night. I am a man who has always needed heroes. It started when I was a boy, and I never outgrew it. It has, I am sure, something to do with how I decided to make my living. A decade and a half ago, an Esquire magazine reporter, noting our advertising played up the heroic aspects of great athletes, asked the question, "Who is your hero?" My answer was simple. My college track coach and partner, Bill Bowerman. He had won 4 national championships, coached more sub-4 minute milers than anyone when he retired. He was the 1972 Olympic coach. And yet he insisted he was not a track coach. He was a professor of competitive response. One year at the University of Oregon, the only group that had a higher grade point average than the track team was the fraternity of Phi Beta Kappa. And burned into every distance runner's brain was his mantra, "Do right and fear no man." When Bill Bowerman died on Christmas Eve in 1999, I asked myself, what do I do for a hero now? 2 months later, on the Nike trip, the answer showed itself across the table wearing a thick set of eyeglasses. I said, "I'm not asking your permission. I'm just telling you. I need someone to look up to. You're my new hero." His response was typical. He threw that left hand up and said, "Ah, Shaw." In the 12 years since, through 4 losing seasons, big bowl wins, 12 win seasons, through All-Americas and players with criminal charges, with 4-point students and players dismissed from the team for discipline, never once did he let me down, not one time. Conventional wisdom dictates that I would phrase it a different way. It would say, in 11 of those 12 years, he never let me down, and those years outweighed this last year. But nobody ever accused me of wisdom of any kind, let alone conventional. In the year in question, it turns out he gave full disclosure to his superiors, information that went up the chain to the head of the campus police and the president of the school. The matter was in the hands of a world-class university and by a president with an outstanding national reputation. Whatever the details of the investigation are, this much is clear to me. If there is a villain in this tragedy, it lies in that investigation, not in Joe Paterno's response to it. And yet, for his actions, he was excoriated by the media and fired over the telephone by his university. Yet, in all his subsequent appearances, in the press, on TV, interacting with students, conversing with hospital personnel, giving an interview to Sally Jenkins, he never complained, he never lashed out. Every word, every bit of body language conveyed a single message. We are Penn State. So I do not follow the conventional wisdom. Joe is my hero every day for 12 of the last 12 years. But it does lead me to this question: who is the real trustee at Penn State University? In periods of stress and grief, not only does your mind do funny things, you say things that surprise you. When I came back from Mass on Sunday, Penny said, "Heather called. Joe has passed." The first words out of my mouth, way out of sequence and typically self-centered. Through the tears, I asked, "Who's going to be my hero now?" It's a question everyone in this arena could ask, and I do not have an answer for you. But I can tell you this much: that old hero, he set a standard that will live forever. Thank you.